Hello, everybody. It's a Sunday special. Except it's not Sunday. It's Monday. I didn't get to make a video yesterday because I was out of town. So, I'm going to make it today, and we're going to pretend like it's Sunday. In the spirit of the Sunday special, we're going to talk about some problems with the Bible, specifically some questions that the Bible just doesn't answer. So, quickly, we'll just run through some. Why is there evil in the world? Why would an all-powerful, all-good God create evil? Is God responsible for evil? Well, I mean, God created everything, right? According to the biblical text, according to the biblical beliefs, Christian beliefs, God created everything. So why did God create evil? Why couldn't he have just created a world where that didn't exist? That's a problem that the Bible doesn't answer. Another one. What's the deal with the serpent? Where'd the serpent come from? Why'd God create a serpent? That was, I guess, Satan, the devil. Why did God create Satan? Why did God create Satan knowing that Satan would betray him and cause the fall of man? That doesn't really seem to jive very well. Why did he do that? Again, it's probably part of the problem of evil. Why did God create a world where evil is allowed to exist? So what's the deal with Satan? What's the deal with not letting Adam and Eve eat of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil? Why is there a tree in the garden they can't eat from? Why did God make a tree that they can't eat from, knowing ahead of time that they were going to eat from it, and thus damn all of humanity and essentially send to hell, to a burning hell, the majority of people who've ever existed, billions of people, to burn in hell forever? But God knew ahead of time that that was what was going to happen. So why did that happen? Why did he let that happen? Why would an all-good God allow the majority of people of his creation throughout all time to burn in hell? Why would he have, with his foresight and his foreknowledge, have created a world where that was going to be? Doesn't sound very good. Bible doesn't really answer that question. Not in a sufficient way. I mean, there could be people that would say, they'd say, well, it's Romans chapter 9, I think, where it says that, who are you, O man, to tell God, tell the one that formed you what he can do with you? But that's not a very good answer, is it? Not really. It's kind of not even an answer. What else? What about Job? Right? What about the Satan figure, Satan, who comes to God and he asks God, he shows God, he says, the only reason that Job obeys you is because look at how blessed his life is. So God allows him to take everything away from him, kill his family, kill all of his possessions, basically destroy his life, and then ultimately attack his body even. What's that all about? Why was that even allowed to happen? If you take a literal stance on it, it certainly happened, right? So why did God allow that to happen? What's the deal with that? Doesn't sound like very good, does it? And anyway, what's this Satan figure doing in heaven as part of God's council? What's he doing there? Right? Like, I thought Satan was the enemy of God. Isn't Satan supposed to be in hell? Or at least cast down here to earth to tempt everybody to go to hell? What's Satan doing in God's court? What's he doing in his company? Don't know. The Bible doesn't really give an answer on that. And then at the end of Job, God doesn't bring back Job's family, give him back his kids and all of his stuff that he lost. He just gives him new stuff, which is incredibly, like, just awful when you think about it. If you're a literalist and you really believe that thing, you know, that actually happened. What about, there's this thing that I learned the other day, that because of some sin that Ham committed against Jonah, all of the line of Ham is now condemned from, you know, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's so generational stuff, especially when Jesus contradicts it. And Jesus says that no one sinned that this man is this way, but that he was this way to show, you know, the power of God or whatever. Basically, that's what he says. Sum it up. And that God, or I'm sorry, that Jesus sort of denounces this idea of generational curses, but it's definitely there in the Old Testament. What's that about? What else? What about Isaiah 53? And this isn't really a question that is lacking an answer. It has an answer. Isaiah 53, most people say, well, that is prophesying Jesus' death. But it doesn't, because all you got to do is just keep reading. Isaiah 53 is apparently talking about Israel, or a different man, not Jesus. It's not talking about Jesus, but everybody thinks that it is. Truly, there's probably not any, I don't know this for fact, but more than likely, there's literally no prophecy of Jesus in the Old Testament whatsoever at all. People go back to that one where it says that he will bruise your head and you will bruise his heel. People try to connect that to Jesus in some way. No, it doesn't make any sense, and I've never understood that one, not even when I was, you know, claimed to be a Christian. There's a lot of answers, or a lot of questions, I'm sorry, that don't really have any answers. Mainly the problem of evil and suffering. Why is it that animals suffer seemingly senselessly, you know? There is suffering. There's suffering amongst humans, but you could at least say that, well, most humans are the cause of their own suffering, or something that has happened in the past has caused someone to make them suffer in some way. But what about animals? They didn't really do anything wrong. They're just running off base instinct. So why do animals suffer? You know? Why is it that, you know, when hyenas kill something on the savannah, they start eating that sucker in his belly while he's still alive, suffering, getting eaten alive? Isn't that insane? That seems to be a ridiculous amount of suffering. Why does that happen? There's a lot of unanswered questions, and what I'm trying to get you to realize, other than that, is that Christian apologists will try to answer these questions. See, they'll come back and say, oh, well, it's because of this, and it's because of that, and it's because of this. But none of their answers really hold any water. None of them. Because when you really press and you really press, they don't really hold water. It's sort of like the same thing with the Calvinist. If God really is sovereign over everything, why is there such a thing as like child abuse? And I'm talking about the most severe child abuse, evil things that happen. But God is in control of everything. Well, wait a second. If God is in control of everything, what does that tell you about God? Look around. Oh, well, he's working everything out to his purposes. Sorry, some of this stuff doesn't really have a purpose. It's just straight evil. And the thing about Christians is that they'll lie to you. They will. Probably more realistically is that they'll repeat lies that were told to them that they believed. Oh, that there's answers to these things, and there really isn't. When you really get down in there really isn't. This is the reason why, you know, why Calvinism is the road to atheism. because when you really dive into Calvinism, if you really get there and you really come out the other side, a lot of people that do that become atheists because they cannot hold these positions with a good God. It's just not, there's just not tenable. Well, it could be, there's just so many things on this earth that we won't know till we get to heaven. Okay, I guess, if that makes you feel comfortable, but that's not really any kind of answer either. So what do we come to? We either don't know the answer, it's some kind of mystery, God is evil, or God doesn't exist. It seems like the logical end to those, to me. But, you should answer these questions. You should ask these questions and answer them. And, I know people who have struggled with these questions. And then they get the answers that they were seeking, and then they still remain like Christians. But the problem is when you go seeking answers, there's something called confirmation bias. So it would be like, say for example, if I had a question about morality, and the morality of good and evil, all this, the only sources that I seeked out were Christian sources. Well, then it's going to be bent that way. How I solve the problem is going to be bent in that direction. So you got to look at all the sources, not just the ones that that align with your current, would be like, if I have these questions, is God evil? And the only thing that I sought out was Christian apologists. Okay, well, that doesn't make any sense. I need to go deeper. I need to go deeper than that. I need to look at all the resources and then come to my own conclusion. I don't need to just listen to what somebody else says and then that be my answer. No, you need to look out these sources for yourself. You need to come to your own conclusions. There's something else that kind of pisses me off, and I think I'm going to make a whole video about it. But it's essentially when these Christians, and you see it mostly online, but it's like, are Christians allowed to do this, or is this okay for a Christian to do? Like tattoos or something. Like tattoos, rated R movies, la da 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 da. And it really irritates me because it's like, what do you mean, am I allowed to do something? Are these people allowed to do it? Who made you the arbiter of truth? Like, who the fuck do you think you are? Or is someone allowed to do something? Motherfucker, people can do whatever the fuck they want. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Am I allowed to do something? Motherfucker, do whatever you want. What the fuck? People that have those kind of mentalities, like, oh, are you allowed to do this? Motherfucker, try me. That's what I think. I can't stand that shit. It really pisses me off. Like I said, I think I might make a whole video on that just by itself. But the point of this is that, people will use the Bible to answer every single question imaginable, and it's just, it doesn't do that. It's not, it wasn't meant to do that. It isn't meant to solve all of your problems and answer all of your questions. It's not a science book, okay? It's not a fix my marriage book. It's not a help me with PTSD book. It's nothing of that. It's none of that. It's not a get rich book. It isn't. It's none of that. You're putting too much weight on the Bible. It's not what it is. It's a Hebrew origin story and a Christian origin story put together for some reason. I don't really know why there's the Old Testament and the New. See, the New Testament isn't really aligned with the Old Testament. It isn't. Jesus and the Gospels aren't aligned with the Old Testament. They aren't. It's not the same God. If Jesus is God, it's not the same God. It just isn't. Just read it. But Paul tries to convince you that Jesus was prophesied of, and even the writers of the Gospels. Oh, Jesus, this was prophesied of, and they try to attach him to all these things in the Hebrew Bible, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work. The book of Hebrews tries to do the same thing. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. Okay? That's just not what it is. That's not what the book is about. That's not why the book was written. But people try to answer all the questions of life with this book, and it's just not meant to do that. It doesn't really address the problem of evil. Not in a sufficient way. It doesn't. You have to look outside the Bible for that. And really, when you look outside the Bible for that, the answers are ugly. They're ugly. And that's part of the problem with confirmation bias and just Christian apologetics and Christians in general is they don't like to look at ugly things. They don't like their beliefs to be challenged. And they don't, I suffered from this too. It's like, I didn't really want to look into a certain area because what it was I felt like if I looked into certain areas, maybe people would have better arguments and it might pull me away from my current beliefs. I don't really know how to respond to that now. I guess let me try to put myself on trial for a second. I didn't want to look into certain things because I felt like I might be convinced of them. Well, I'm certainly not very trusting of my own discernment, and I mean discernment not in a Holy Spirit kind of way. Oh, the Trinity, that's a whole nother thing. Made up thing. I didn't want to look because I was afraid of what I might find. But Jesus himself said, knock, and the door will be open. Seek, and you will find. That's what we were told Jesus said. Don't know if he said it or not. I don't know. I don't know if I could call it cowardly. It's kind of cowardly, right? It's kind of cowardly because in the sense of like, I'm so comfortable sitting here on the couch that I'm afraid that, if I move to the love seat, or if I just try the love seat out, that maybe it'll be better than my couch or something. I don't know. But it seems like it's very lazy. It seems lazy, and it seems immature, and it seems cowardly. But I am a big, I think. I always have to say that I think, because sometimes I'll get on a roll and I hadn't thought something through out all the way, but I think that I believe in these, what the Christians would call like seasons of life almost, or something like that. So like, sort of like you are where you are because that's where you need to be, kind of a thing. And that might be true. That might be true. Maybe I didn't look into the void because I wasn't ready to look into the void. It wasn't time yet for me to look into the void. Maybe it isn't time for you to either. Maybe it never will be. And that's fine. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to believe. I'm not. It's just my own personal opinion. I feel like maybe, especially, in the current political climate, everybody likes to say like, oh, everybody's like confirmation bias because they're only in their little bubble and they only take in information in their little bubble, and it's true that they do. But nobody thinks that about Christianity. They only think that if you're, a left-winger. Hardly anybody on the right is like, oh, like, we only absorb things from our little bubble, while they're sitting there watching The Daily Wire with Ben Shapiro and Fox News and all this other bullshit. And they're like, oh, I consume, the truth. Motherfucker, you are ignorant. I want to say dumb as fuck, but that's probably not fair. How about this? You are as stupid as you think those other people are. You and your little bubble are just as dumb and ignorant and lazy and pathetic and cowardly and all this other stuff, per my opinion, as you think those other people are with the blue hair and the crazy red hair, like this girl right here, purplish red, whatever. Do what floats your boat. Be an idiot if you want to. Watch Fox News, watch CNN. I don't give a shit. I'm just sharing my opinion and kind of rambling at this point. But don't for a second think that... Here's a good way to find out. If every single one of your sources for whatever the fuck it is all agree, you're probably in a bubble. Now, I will say this. I'll get sometimes, like, I get things on my feeds or whatever, whatever the algorithm is sending me stuff, and it's like, I'll watch some of it, and I'm like, damn, this dude is dumb as fuck. And I'll be like, dude, like, you just lied. Like, you just lied, and you just lost all of your credibility. And it's like, or you'll use like an ad hominem. I hate that shit. Like, maybe I say, oh, it's pathetic. I hate it. Like, pathetic is to me is such a degrading term. But let's say it's so ignorant for you to only watch Fox News, right? And maybe that sounds like an ad hominem. I don't know. I'm not really attacking anybody personally, but people will use these ad hominems against people, on a personal level, like everything Trump or this guy the other day said that Trump is stupid, and it's proven that he's stupid. And I'm thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what the fuck are you saying? I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. Trump is stupid? I would say that Trump is probably stupid in areas, but what the fuck are you talking about? Plus, stupid. What level of fucking vocabulary do we have here where we're calling somebody stupid? It's proven that they're stupid. Whoa, don't bring out the big words, motherfucker. Just say he's stupid. Don't give me any evidence, just say he's stupid. Like, I hate that shit, man. Like, I'm calling everybody fucking dumb. Not one person. That's different, right? Everybody in general. Not one specific person, because that's not, first of all, that's not how my mind thinks, and second of all, I don't believe that on an individual level. I don't believe that people on an individual level are dumb as fuck. I think that they're probably in a fucking trance, in a coma, asleep, blind, or whatever it is. I don't know. Like, most people are suffering with some form of mental health issue, or they're they grew up in a bubble, like they're like a fucking Mennonite. Do I think the Mennonites are fucking stupid? No. But I do think that they're programmed to be fucking Mennonites. Like, do I think that every leftist person is stupid? A lot of them are, but no, not every single one of them. Do I think that every conservative MAGA person, MAGA people, are they all stupid? Not 100%. A lot of them are. You know what I mean? So I'm not, on a personal level, no, people aren't dumb. They are they're something. I wouldn't just call them dumb. Or stupid. Oh, you're stupid. You're stupid, ain't you? You're dumb. You're stupid. What the fuck? Dude, it just makes me want to, like, do that shit, that snatch your throat out shit. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway, 25 minutes is way too long for this video. So we started with what? We started with the Bible. There's a lot of questions that the Bible can't answer, and that's just it's just true. Okay, it's just true. And if you do want answers to those questions that you have, those really difficult questions, like what happens to me when I die? Good luck with that one. But if you have questions about specific things, seek out people that are in your line of thinking, but also seek out people that aren't. A good thing to do is say, if you believe that the Shroud of Turin is literally Christ's body, right, wrapped in the linen, then just look up that, and look up all the people that have to say that it is, and then look up Shroud of Turin debunked, and then watch those videos, and then make up your own mind. See, then you have information from both sides, and you can pick and choose what you like, what you don't like, or what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and then you form your own individual opinion, and then you're not dumb anymore.